Are you ready for cooking? Are you ready to make your house smell so astonishingly sweet because there's something cooking in the oven? I hope so. You know, stories are a lot like cooking because you need certain ingredients. When you put them all together, you get something quite wonderful. So, I introduce you to this story. And if you've heard it, I think you'll even like it more. This story can be told with any kind of food. Any kind. Different times of the year, you make different stuff. You might make this with a bread. You might make this with tacos. You might make this with anything that you love to eat. Initially, I told it about a bread called challah, and then I moved it into the kind of realm that I made when I made cookies with my grandma. I would walk down the street every Tuesday after school. I think I was 5 or 6, and I would go to her apartment in Chicago, and together we would make cookies. And as this story will teach you, it isn't just the making, it's the talking. But first, oh, here it is. Look a little bit familiar, perhaps a little bit younger, and that's good. That's awesome good that I have that. And then I'm going to share with you how to make these puppets. Yeah, I won't even have to tell you because, truth told, when you look at them, you'll know. That's how smart you are. But I will share with you something that just always makes me smile when I open this book up to read it. Oh, by the way, I wrote it. How cool is that? Could you write a book? Oh, yes, you can. Because this is just about my experience. And also, I took it from an old folk tale, at least 1,000+ years old, about the smells of cooking and what we really need to do to cook something good. So I'm going to show you ever so briefly, because this is something an author gets to do. So cool. They get to dedicate the book. hmm That means when I write this book, I made it in honor of somebody. So here it goes. This dedication page, oh, it's kind of hard to see, but I'm going to show it to you. That's my family. My family sitting, posing, so that I could dedicate this book to them. And 3 of those people in there, they call me Grandma. It's the best job ever. Almost as good, equally good, and a little bit different than being a mama or a parent. So this is called Grandma's Cookies. And it's a story that I made in my imagination, in my studio, in with the help of a really wonderful photographer friend who took the pictures, and we put it together. You can do that. That's how easy it is. And the help of a publisher, of course, is always nice. So let me show you some principal ingredients for making Grandma's cookies. These cookies are so good because anybody with any allergy can eat them, except I don't recommend them because they're made of felt. hmm Very easy to make. You could even draw a cookie and you would have that for your plate of cookies. One other secret, and not so secret, is that to make it even more special for me, this plate, this plate came from Europe with my grandma. So it's not only the cookies, it's the grandma's cookies on her plate. Also, just in case you're really wanting to have fun, you should have a puppet eye. And that's just 2 felt cookies sewn together at the back, and you say, "Hi, cookie." Oh, that's a puppet too. All of the characters in our book are made out of kitchen equipment, kitchen utensils, things you use to bake with. If you're not old enough yet to turn on the oven, then you get to make cookies with somebody special who does. And then what you do is you talk about it. And when you talk to someone as you're busy working, then you learn stuff about them. So I'm going to put my cookies down so I don't eat them. I know I wouldn't eat them because they're made of felt. Let's put them on the tray right there. Do you need a bowl to make these cookies? No, but I like to have a little equipment around. This is what I'm going to make you so simple little puppets. And if you've done this already, forgive me. I like to explain it for those who haven't. This, of course, is a mess of pipe cleaner. So I am going to pull, oh, I got 2. That's good fortune because I'm going to make you two characters. The principal characters in our story are a grandma and a king. The king starts out as a little boy just like anybody else, unless you're a girl, right? So the pipe cleaners, we have to make them safe so that you point down the edges. Then I want you to take a spoon, any spoon. I got these very sweet little spoons, which aren't really for cooking, but I thought they were so pretty. So this one is a tiny little spoon. What I'm going to do with the pipe cleaner is wrap it and wrap it and wrap it. I think that's enough wrapping so that our character can have some arms. Mm-hmm. So we have three, but only two that are seen in our story, female characters. One is a little girl and one is her grandma. So they can both be made out of spoons or forks. They have hair like mine that sticks up a little bit. So that's grandma and or the little girl. This one, you're going to know right away who this fork is going to be. Look at Fork's head. I hold it against the dark background here. That's me on the dark background. See these? That's his crown. Mm-hmm. And what we're going to do for the king is give him arms too. Same thing, remember? Folding over, getting ready, and then the wrap up. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and here's the king. His one arm is a little bit longer than the other, and that's okay, right? Because we can fix it. Or maybe his arm is longer than the other. How do you do, Your Majesty? Thank you for coming to my story. No, thank you for inviting me. So we have 2 puppets, and at no time in our story are there more than 2 puppets up. Do you know why that is? I bet you guessed. I only have 2 arms, so I can only do 2 puppets, which means that sometimes, but not always, you can see me in the story. In this story, I'll be there, moving the characters around. So this could be your stage right here. You put your puppets in. When it's time for them to come out, ta-da, there they are. That is the intro. So I am going to clean off my space. Oh yes, one of our chefs could be made out of this. Because sometimes when you're in a big hurry, under a great deal of strain, so he could be in here. And these also make great puppets, but a little big for our show today. For this show. I have some very large puppets you will meet in this story. And I am grateful to all of the places I was able to find them. So we're going to put this. This is what? This is a big, great story about pizza. We'll tell that someday. You could even tell this story about pizza too. And you could call it Grandma's Pizza. A story about making pizza with Grandma. But for today, I take you to Grandma's kitchen. And the very first character is me. Once upon a time, a long time ago, there was a little boy. He lived in a place called the castle. He lived with his mom and his dad, his grandma and his grandpa. He had brothers and sisters. He had cousins, aunts and uncles, and all of the people who loved them and took care of them, and they who took care of them as well. This little boy lived in a place called the castle. His daddy was the king. And he was the oldest. Now, in those days, the oldest child was the next in line to be king or perchance queen. In our case, that little boy was going to be the king. But that little boy was in training in a very interesting way. Not only did he learn from his daddy and his grandpa, who was the king before him, but he learned things from his grandma. And where did they learn? They learned in the kitchen. And this is how the story goes. Every time there was cookies to be made, that little boy would go into the kitchen and he and grandma would make cookies. They would add, they would stir, they would drop, they would put them in the oven and set the timer. Ding! And when the timer went off, they would take out those cookies. The whole kitchen smelled of a cookie. The smells went through the castle. Everybody was happy when Grandma made cookies. Now, that little boy learned a lot from Grandma because she told him stories. She told him about when his daddy was the king. And his daddy was a good king, an excellent king, and there was much to be learned. So not only did he learn about cookies, he learned about being a king. As the years went by, his daddy, the king, lived a good long life. So he didn't become king for a very long time, and his grandma was gone by the time he became king. But he had vowed, even as a little boy, that when he was king, he was only going to eat his grandma's cookies. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I give you His Royal Majesty, once a little boy, now the king, the ruler of the land. On the very first morning that he was king, he raced to the kitchen and called out for his royal chef. Royal chef, royal chef. Who should come running? Of course, but the royal chef. Your Majesty, your Majesty, your Majesty, did you call? I did. What can I do for you, your Royal Majesty? I would like some cookies. Would you like chocolate chip? No. No. Would you like oatmeal? No. Would you like raisin or snickerdoodle? No. What kind of cookies would you like? I would like Grandma's cookies. Oh, your Majesty, I am not your grandma. Of course not. But you don't have to be. You see, I have Grandma's recipes. Oh, that is good indeed, your Majesty. Well, the king raced to his room. He climbed all the way up to the top shelf of his closet. He brought back those recipes that he had cherished through the years. There they are, Grandma's recipes. This is the one I'd like today. Oh, yes, I have all those ingredients, your Majesty. I will be happy to make it for you. Good, good, good. But don't leave anything out. It has to taste exactly like Grandma's. Of course, your Majesty. Well, that chef read the recipe very, very carefully. He added, he stirred, he dropped. He put those cookies in the oven and set the timer. Ding! When the timer went off, he handed the king the cookies. There they are, your Majesty, cookies like your grandma made. Did you leave anything out? No, your Majesty, not a thing. Oh, good. Okay, the king was very excited. He picked up a cookie. He popped it in his mouth. He chewed, he swallowed. He turned to the chef. He said, ew, those are the worst cookies I ever ate. You left something out. Oh, your Majesty, I did not. Goodbye, my friend, and good luck. Well, the chef left, but do not worry. He had a job almost immediately. But the king didn't have any cookies that he wanted. And so he kept calling other chefs. Well, the king had 23 chefs. Woo! And 21 more of them tried to make cookies. 21 more of them failed. Oh, the king was very, very, very sad. But then, good news, he had one more chef. This one had been practicing, but he was very worried. He was under a great deal of strain. Yes, your Majesty, I suppose you'd like me to make you cookies? Of course, Grandma's cookies. Please do not leave anything out. Of course not. He was very confident, that chef. So he too added, stirred, and then he dropped, put the cookies in the oven and set the timer. Ding! When the timer went off, oh, now the king was really excited. Oh, this has got to be it. This has got to be it. Well, did you leave anything out? No. Everything is in exactly as planned. Good. Well, the king picked up a cookie, put it in his mouth, chewed, swallowed, turned to the chef with almost tears in his eyes and said, oh, no, my friend. These are not my grandma's cookies. Oh, dear. And off he went, also to get another job. Now, I don't want you to worry because this is a very smart king and he knew where to go. He went to his people. He put up a big sign in the middle of the kingdom. It said, "Help wanted, cookies, big reward, lots of dough." Everybody tried. I did. All my chefs, and I only had none. They all tried to make cookies for the king, and they failed. Oh, the king. So sad. Now, here's a secret that many of you maybe don't know. When kings get sad, they go up to that thing called the tower. They go so high up so that they can cry in secret so that nobody would ever know they're crying. He was a very proud king, working hard for his people. And so there he was, a weeping and a wailing in the top of his tower. He didn't even see that young girl come skipping down the road. She was on her way to Grandma's. I'm going to Grandma's. We're going to make cookies. I can hardly wait. Oh, and she's going to tell me stories. And as she was skipping down the road, she heard the weeping and wailing. "Oh, Your Majesty, what is it?" "It's the cookies, little girl. Can't you read?" "Not yet." "Oh, Majesty, why are you so sad? And cookies shouldn't make you sad." "Well, I've been trying to get a taste of my grandma's cookies." "Oh, that's where I'm going, to have cookies with my grandma. We make them together. They're the best." When the king heard those two words in one sentence, grandma and cookie and best, he raced down the terrace stairs. "Quick, could you take me to visit your grandma?" What could she say? It was the king. So she took him by the kingly hand, and together they walked through the dark but not scary woods. And as they were walking, they were talking. She was telling him about her life. She even told him some of the bad jokes that kids like to tell grown-ups. And he laughed, remembering he had told his grandma those jokes too. And as they were walking and as they were talking, they became friends. When they got to the sweet little house where smells were already coming through the open window, she raced in to tell Grandma the news that the king was standing outside of her house. Grandma could hardly believe it. Kings never came to her neighborhood anymore, and she went to see his royal majesty. "Your Majesty, the king at my house." "What brings you here?" "Your granddaughter brought me here." "Well, I know that, but why did you come?" "Well, my grandma used to make cookies with me." "Oh, how sweet." "And, well, grandma's gone, and I miss her. And I thought that if I could take just one bite of the kind of cookie she and I made together, it would make me remember her even better, in my heart, in my head, and in my tummy." "Oh, well, I wish you good luck and Godspeed, but I can't help you." "Why not?" "Because I only use my recipes." "But I brought her recipe along." "Oh, Your Majesty, I do wish I could help you, but I really only use my grandma's recipes." "But I'm the king." "But I'm the grandma." "Oh, what if I help you?" "Oh, now you're talking. Come in my kitchen." And so they did. The king and the grandma went into her small but adequate kitchen, and there they started to make cookies. They added, they stirred, they dropped onto that lovely cookie sheet. But the most important thing they did was talk to each other. She told him stories about his daddy, the king, and how much he cared for his people and how much he loved them. And he told her about his grandma and how she had taken care of him and taught him things. By the time they were done and had put the cookies in the oven, ding, the king was very excited, but a little worried. "But you didn't put anything different inside the cookies than all my chefs or my people. I don't think they're going to taste any better." "Oh, Your Majesty, come on, try one. you'll like it. Oh, those words had been spoken to the king so many times, but she had gone way out of the way for him. So he picked up a cookie and broke it in half, and he handed half to her. And together they chewed and swallowed. Then a huge smile came over the king's face. He said, "Now that's a cookie like my grandma made." "How did you do it? What did you add that made it different?" "Oh, Your Majesty, it isn't what I did, it's what we did. When we made these cookies, we made them with love, like I make them for my granddaughter. We made a cookie with that secret ingredient. It's love. That's the ingredient you need to add. And that, my friends, no matter what you're baking, cooking, that's always the truth." The end. I wish for you a day of sweet cooking, a day of dreaming and scheming, a day of learning how to be a good leader, like our friend the king. I wish for you many, many, many stories, sweet ones, and the ones you will tell over and over again. And that's the truth. Thanks for coming. I'm off to the kitchen.